Hi, I'm Marshall Jones. I'm the managing editor of InfoNews.ca. I'm here with our Kamloops reporter, Levi Landry. Levi, last week you got a hold of an interesting list. We've obviously been covering a lot of what's been going on with Kamloops City Council, a lot of the complaints, a lot of the allegations that have been made, but this list kind of brings some perspective to this. What did you find?
It does. What I obtained, I got simply through an information request through city staff, was a tally of all of the code of conduct complaints and investigations related to Kamloops City Council. It's clearly been an embattled council. There's been spats on and
Okay,
off
but what
for
did you find? There
months.
was a list. How many were on this list?
We had 17 investigations.
17 investigations. And how
Yes.
long have we had a code of conduct to enable these investigations?
So that's been in place since May. And the first complaints that actually spurred an investigation started coming in July.
So these investigations, tell me what's involved in these.
So I only have two of them fully, where I actually obtained a report that lays out the findings. And uh, in that case, both of them, there was a lawyer that went through um, written evidence, emails back and forth, text messages, interviewed people involved. And it essentially reads like a court decision. There is a precedent that the lawyer will look at to compare to, um, bounce between arguments, and then eventually come to a conclusion in the end. And
Okay.
then with that conclusion, they will also make recommendations to city council what they should do about it.
So so basically somebody has made a complaint and this goes to a law firm and they come and do a basically a full investigation through whatever evidence they need. They come, they assess the complaint, do some legal research as well to find out, if this fits the bill and uh, gives them recommendations on what to do.
Yeah,
And we've only had
exactly.
two of these so far.
Only two. Yeah. There are two that are completed, two more where the investigation portion is actually finished, but we're waiting on a report. And then the that leaves us with 13 where the investigations are still ongoing. Sorry, 11 where the investigations are still ongoing. Several have been dismissed.
Okay. So, I mean, we'll come back to sort of some more stuff on these investigations and these complaints in the first place, but I mean, this is sounding expensive. I know we don't have any dollar amounts yet, but what can you tell us about that? Like, this is taxpayers going to have to be paying for this. What's it going to cost?
Yeah. The exact tally is something we're still waiting on. The numbers I've heard floated around are somewhere in the $200,000 range. It's six figures for sure. Up to 200,000 is what I've heard. Now, that could also include some other legal costs in that figure. They're still dealing with the Noble Creek situation, and there's some legal costs there as well. So, um, all that's to say that how much is specifically on these investigations isn't totally clear. However, most of them are still ongoing, so the bills aren't done coming in. There's more invoices, and more taxpayer money that's going to be going to these investigations still.
Okay, so give me a little bit of a background here. Tell me, who makes these allegations? And where do these allegations come from?
So when the policy first came into place, it could pretty much be anybody. It's a set of rules for council members, mayor and council, to live by, to present themselves by, and it could come in from citizens that have complaints about councillors. Other councillors, it come from staff. Um,
And
After a few
these
months,
complaints that we've actually got, how many, where'd they come from? Who made these complaints?
so of the complaints that we have here that are actually being investigated or have been, four of them came from the public. Um, One of them came from staff. The rest of them have all come from fellow councillors, either
So
the
this is
mayor or a
counselors,
councillor.
so these are counselors making complaints about other counselors
Yeah, or the mayor.
or the
To
mayor,
be clear, we
council
don't have a
members,
name for any of them. So,
council members, we can call them.
yes, sure, yes.
Okay, so um, how did no these code of conduct investigations? This is not something readers will have heard about for very long because these things just came in. Do you got any kind of background on that? How did these things even come in? Did the city of Kamloops want this code of conduct before this council came in, or how did this come up?
Yeah, so this came from the province. It was a request that came from cities in the last few years, asking the province to uh, basically set some standards for municipalities um, to act by. And so that's where this came from. The province brought in the legislation in 2022, and it required cities to at least consider bringing in a code of conduct bylaw. So different cities are adopting them at different times, but Kamloops had theirs adopted in May.
And this was like brought on by asked for by municipalities. They need some legislation that they can use in the case of, a council candidate or a mayor charged with a crime. How do you deal with that? Was nothing in the legislation dealing with that and how nothing prescriptive about how a council should deal with that. Is that about right?
Yeah, and I mean it
Yeah.
also deals with a few other things. Reading through the provincial website, provincial government's website, it deals with, or at least suggests cities deal with how they present information to the public, make that sort of standardized. In most cases, the mayor is the spokesperson for the city. We've got HR complaints, um, bullying and harassment, and that's essentially what we've got in Kamloops.
So we've had so Kamloops has had theirs for about 9 months. Is that right? We know Kelowna has one. We know Penticton is considering, but like how unusual is this? I mean, 17 complaints in 9 months in Kamloops. Do you have any indication of how many in Kelowna? How many complaints have been filed in Kelowna or investigated?
Kelowna, I've asked the city clerk, Stephen Fleming, and he didn't say how many they have. So I have no real frame of reference to say um, just how much more prevalent is this in Kamloops than other cities. But I think it's notable to say that Kamloops is way ahead of other cities before they've even adopted a bylaw. Um, Penticton hasn't even talked about it yet. They're set for February to have a meeting and talk about a code of conduct bylaw. Meanwhile, Kamloops has 17 investigations.
They've got bills coming in before anyone else has even got their code of conduct in there. It sounded like Kelowna was still working on some of the processes for this. They weren't sure what they could tell us because they're trying to figure out disclosure and how these things are disclosed. But it seemed to indicate they don't have any.
One could reasonably suspect that's the case.
All right. Well, we'll continue to watch and wait to see if we can figure out that other number, how much this is costing taxpayers. And no doubt we'll be keeping on top of all of this stuff going on at Kamloops City Council right here at infonews.ca.